Welcome. Today we're talking about one of the most crucial aspects of running a successful club, managing finances. Whether you're managing a top tier team or a lower league underdog, keeping your financials in check is key to long-term success. In this video, which is part 1 of our financial series, I will walk you through how to better understand your club's financials, including revenue and expenses. We will also discuss our first major task, restructuring your payroll. We'll be using Guarani from Brazil's Serie B, a club with rich history, but that unfortunately has been struggling financially. Welcome to Guarani Hot Seat, and it is really hot. Check this out. Finances, overall balance negative 4.5 million. We have a transfer budget of 95,000, a scouting budget of about 70,000, and a payroll of 290,000, of which 280,000 are currently committed. If you click on debt and loans, you can see that Guarani has 71 million pounds in debt, and the club needs to pay 300,000 pounds a month for the next 20 years. If you go to income, you can see that for this season, which is almost over, remember the season in Brazil goes from January through December, Guarani had almost 8 million pounds in revenue and expenditures about 12 million pounds, which basically in summary, we had a loss of 4 million only for this season. I love managing clubs with financial issues. Seriously. Now, how bad is it? Really bad. Check this out. Quick summary here of our income, expenditures, and balance or loss for the year. But the most important thing I want to show you is right here, our debt repayments of 300,000 a month or 3.6 million a year. That means that our debt to revenue ratio is 45%. Of the 8 million pounds that we collect every year in revenue, basically 3.6 million goes just to repay our loans. A healthy football club should not have any debt to revenue ratio higher than 15%. We are in trouble, my friends. How's your club doing? Okay, so most of our income comes from gate receipts, 2 million pounds, investments, 2 million pounds. This is the money that the board or the president or the owner puts in the club, and $1.7 million in TV revenue. Combined, the three main items represent 72% of our annual income. Let's take a closer look at gate receipts. To do that, go to schedule, and if you don't have this column here, you can add it. Just right click, insert column, attendance, sort by the games with the most receipts, and you can see that in my case, most of the games were away. They were either against big clubs like Corinthians, Ceará, Vitória, clubs that are bigger or more reputable than my club, or the derbies, which were against Ponte Preta, Guarani's rival. Other than that, most games were just okay. They do not make a real difference. Unfortunately, there is not much you can do here except for playing well and hoping that your club will make it to the later stages of tournaments and playing in front of bigger crowds. However, as your club grows and climbs the ladders and gets promoted to new divisions, you will likely see this amount get much bigger. Now on to TV revenue. You can see here a breakdown. We collected 1.7 million pounds in TV revenue, 1.1 million from the National Second Division, and about 600,000 from the Brazilian São Paulo State Championship. If you want to know more details about your TV deals, go to sponsors and others, and here you have individual TV deal, you have the duration, the total value for different tournaments, and the total amount that you will receive or should expect to receive in the next couple of years. There are a lot of items here, and most of them you have no control over. You cannot influence them whatsoever. However, there are a few that you want to pay close attention because yes, you can probably influence how much money you can make from them. The first one is prize money. As you can see, I made 575,000 from prizes, of which 497, or most of it, came from the Brazilian Cup. The remaining amount, 78,000, came from the Brazilian São Paulo State Championship. So that means that going forward, I should prioritize the Brazilian Cup because the prize is much higher. So if you go to the schedule, we can see that this year my club got disqualified right here. Brazilian Cup second round, we lost to Sampaio Correia at home, which is a club that basically got relegated, I think. Yes, got relegated in the same division as ours. That's a club that we should have beat. That's a game that we should have won. The next year, we need to make sure that we do better in the Brazilian Cup because that means more money. We also have sponsorship here, 375,000. For more details, you can click on sponsors and others. Main kit, about 94,000. For 3 years, total value 275,000. This is something I wish Sports Interactive would change for FM25. I would love to have options as far as sponsorship packages, sponsors, being able to at least have some sort of influence in that area of the game. Last but not least is players sold. Check this out. This year, only 53,000 pounds from sales of players. We need to invest urgently in some younger players, sign some free agents that we can resell later, do whatever we can to make this revenue line much higher. Time to look at our expenditures, and just like the income, there is very little you can do here, with a few exceptions. If you look at our expenditures this season, as we already discussed, loan repayments and interest rates really high. Tax also really high with 1.6 million, and then player salaries with 3.12 million, or 25% of our annual expenses. So these three items combined represent 76% of our annual expenditures. With salaries being the only one we can actually have an influence on, it's time for us to make some real changes in our payroll structure. The first step is to decide on the squad size. I usually go with 22 players for the first team, maybe 25 players maximum. Why? Because that helps me ensure that everyone is playing, everyone is happy, which helps with team morale, which is extremely important in Football Manager, but it also helps me make sure that I only spend money on players who are playing and are adding value to the club. For the reserve squad, I decided to make no investments and have no one, and the reason is simple. If you go here to reserve matches, you can see that we only played friendlies this year. The revenue from these games was de minimis, so I'm not gonna invest in a B team. I'm cutting, I'm saving money. For the youth squad, I'm keeping it short, 15 players, only those with high potential. And the reason is, most of the time we tend to leave a lot of players in our youth teams, sometimes spending money on unnecessary wages, but also not giving our best players the amount of time they need to develop. So I'm going very lean here. I'm only keeping the ones that have potential for the future. I'm going with 15 players. Step number 2 is to set a new target for my payroll. Guarani currently spends 280,000 in player salaries, but I'm setting a new goal to spend no more than 210,000 a month, which is basically a 25% reduction in wages. That means that I'm saving 70,963 a month, or 851,000 a year. If you remember, we're losing 4 million pounds a year. So by saving 850,000 pounds in player salaries, that means that we're cutting our losses by 21%. But is that possible? Of course it is. Check this out. If we go to the Brazilian second division and we click here on Ituano, which finished in 5th, and we go to club profile, we can see that their payroll budget is 185,000 a month. So we should be able to finish much better next season with a similar payroll. The next step is to allocate my payroll per squad. As you can see here, I'm allocating 95% to my first team, 0% to my reserve squads. I do not want to spend any money on that team. And then 5% or 10,000 pounds on my youth team. And the next step, more specifically for the senior squad, is to think about playing time. I usually break down my 22 players, as you can see here. 11 players considered important players or regular starters, those who will start most of the matches. 5 squad players, those who will start some of the matches, will be coming on during the game as subs. And then 6 players who are considered backups, future prospects, or breakthrough prospects, those who do not expect to start most matches. Once I do that, I'm going to start calculating the amount of salary I want to spend per playing time. So as you can see here, regular starters or important players, I want to allocate 65% of my senior squad payroll. That is about 125,000 pounds a month. The way I calculated this was simple. If you remember, the amount of payroll we allocated to the senior squad was 199,000 pounds. That times 65%, that gives us the 129,000 that we have available. As we discussed before, I want to have 11 players in that regular starter important player kind of role, which means that I will be able to spend on average 11,789 a month per player that I consider a regular starter. That's my average salary, and I will do the same for the next one, which is a squad player. Allocated payroll 20%, total allocation 39,900, number of players 5, and the average salary will be 7,980 a month. For backup players, I usually allocate 15%. In my case here, 29,000. For 6 players, that means on average 4,988 per player a month as average salary. So here's my quick summary. You have here 3 types of playing time, the number of players I expect to fall under each one of these categories, and the average salary for each one of them. After setting up my salary structure, the next step is to conduct a thorough squad analysis. This helps ensure that every player aligns with our tactical and financial goals. Here's how I approach it. I usually build my tactics around my best players, but in this case, specifically with teams that are struggling financially, around the positions that I have plenty in the squad. So for Guarani, I have plenty of center mids and forwards, so I decided to go with a 4-3-1-2 formation. Do not focus on player roles and team instructions. These are very preliminary. Right now I'm focused on squad analysis, not on my tactics. Once I have a draft of my tactics, I'm gonna start selecting 2 players per position, and these will be my 22 players on the squad. To do that, I follow a couple of steps. Number 1, my plans for the player in terms of playing time. So for each player, I make a decision. Is this player a squad player? Is this player a backup or is this player a regular starter? Then I compare my plans for the player versus the current agreed playing time between the player and the club. Each player has a different agreed time. So I compare both of them. And then number 3, the contract situation. I look at salary, of course, and contract expiration date. Let's use a Tor as an example here. A Tor is a wingback, right? He is 3.5 stars for ability, 4 stars for potential, according to my assistant manager. If I click on him, I agree that he is actually a really good player for the Brazilian national second division. In my opinion, he will be a regular starter. So then I look at agreed playing time. Squad player, great. He will be a regular starter. He wants to be a squad player. He would not give me any issues with playing time, no complaints. And I look at his salary, £6,000 per month. If you remember, what I established here for regular starters was about 11,000 or 12,000 per regular starter. So he is definitely within what I want to pay him. Actually, he gives me room for a potential increase or salary raise anytime soon. By the way, for those of you who love spreadsheets, I created one that I use for myself. You can see here I have my Guarani squads. I have every player name, the team they belong to, senior, youth, or B team, the position that I think they are best for, their age, their playing time according to me, my playing time for that player, the agreed playing time according to the game, the player's ability, potential, player's current salary, expiration dates for the contract, and then the target salary based on what we discussed previously. And then I have here a formula that tells me whether their player is making too much or making less than anticipated. That helps me make all these decisions I just showed you. Okay, all that feeds into some dashboards that I have for specific squads that tells me whether my squad is too big or too small, how much money I'm saving, and all that. If you're interested in this dashboard, I can look at how I can make this available for downloads. Please let me know, drop a comment below. Now let's see the opposite, a player that I do not want to keep. Shy, he's 33 years old. He only played 9 games last season. He's on loan from Botafogo. I'm paying him 28,000 a month. What? He is not even a regular starter and he's making 28,000. I can only pay 12,000 per regular starter. So Shy is a guy that I would be returning to his club as soon as possible. Some loans can actually be great for clubs restructuring payroll. Check this guy out here, Marcio Silva. He's a backup defender, but he costs me 0 per month. He's on loan from Curitiba. He's a decent player, but you know what? He gives me the opportunity to save a lot of money. So focus on loans as well, bring players in, especially the ones that you will spend less than what you would expect to spend for a player that you own. So I follow the same methodology with every player until I end up with 22 or 25 players on the squad. Everyone else either goes to the transfer list, or if they are young enough and very talented, they may end up in the under 20 team. This is just the beginning. There's a lot more that we need to do, but that's it for this video. I will come back with the second chapter of the series, Managing Financials, shortly. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Your feedback is very important. And in the next chapter, we're going to cover a lot more. Thank you very much. Until the next time.